All right. What about after death? What happens then?
That's a big question.
That's a big question.
In 2019, 42 million people visited Las Vegas. That is a ridiculous number of tourists to come and visit a town, but Las Vegas has that kind of attractionality to it. And the number has been increasing year after year since at least the 70s. We got a little dip during the recession, but even then, now that we're dealing with COVID, that number is probably going to dip again, but it will probably climb right back up again. Las Vegas is a unique town, and this is a unique opportunity that we get to interact with people of all cultures, all countries, all portions of the United States. Even in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of all these changes and regulations and masks and whatnot, people are still coming to visit, and they're visiting the Strip. I don't see a lot of evangelistic efforts out on the Strip that don't involve bullhorns and telling people they're going to hell. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to run an experiment. I've never done evangelism before. I've never done street evangelism before. And what you're about to watch is my attempt at it. And I'm going to warn you, I do a terrible job. I'm going to critique myself along the way. But that's so that I can get better, so that we can get better. And maybe we'll be more emboldened to have these kinds of conversations. So in my usual fashion, I'm Josh, by the way, I haven't introduced myself. Hi there. In my usual fashion, I'm going to run an experiment on people. They're the most fun thing to experiment on, and I know that sounds twisted, but it's true. And I want to experiment on strangers. In my evangelistic attempts, I want to see if I can get more conversations or better engagement if I've got a camera in their face. In this video, you'll see a couple that I get to interview, Brandon and Malia. And I have that kind of conversation, that interview style approach, and I want to see if they think they're good people. And hopefully, that'll lend itself towards a conversation about Jesus. I also need to apologize for the quality of this video. I didn't have a stand or anything. I was just kind of holding it up with my hand, and very quickly my arm got tired, so it's gonna droop a lot, and poor Brandon's eyes are just gonna get cut out constantly. I'm sorry. So I'm Josh, by the way.
Josh and Brandon.
Brandon?
Malia.
Malia, all right. So like I said, I'm trying to find out how many good people are in Las Vegas, how many good people are in Sin City, and you guys are visiting.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for coming, despite all the chaos and the masks and everything.
Definitely.
Yeah. So would you guys say that you're good people?
I think so.
For the most part, yeah.
I mean, what does that mean for the most part?
Certainly help if you see someone in need. I mean, certainly you can't always be good. But,
Okay.
I would like to say I want to help anyone that I see if I can.
Okay.
But other than that, definitely it's more than, I guess, morality. The way you think about people. Everyone has their moments.
Okay.
I guess I can't say I like everyone.
Okay.
There are certainly people that I have on a hate list. But I don't think that makes you a bad person to dislike people.
What does make you a bad person? What would make anybody a bad person?
Definitely, I guess, stealing,
Okay.
killing.
I feel like taking advantage of someone's vulnerability. If that makes any sense. Like if you see someone having a hard time, you just kind of laugh at it, make fun of it. Especially everyone around here being drunk and everything. You see someone falling down, you just kind of laugh at it or record it or something.
That too. Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay. So stealing, killing, taking advantage of people, or even openly mocking them.
Yeah.
Those are qualifiers for bad people.
Vanity as well. Doing something for
Attention.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's something you see a lot in Vegas.
Yeah.
I would agree. So where do you get your standard for defining what makes you a good person or a bad person?
A lot of the times, television, movies,
For parents.
parents, yeah.
Okay.
Just things you look up to, I guess. Obviously, nowadays with television and movies.
Being yourself, deciding for yourself, really.
Yeah.
Basing it upon what you see from other people and deciding if you want to be like that.
So what I'm hearing from you is the standard for morality comes from entertainment, and for me the standard of morality is self-determined. Brandon makes a really interesting point when he talks about our morality coming from TV or entertainment sources, and frankly, I think he's hit the nail on the head. but he doesn't know it. And he's going to veer away from that. And I'm going to veer away from it. But it's only later that I sat down and mulled it over that I realized, no, he was right. That's precisely where most of us are getting our morality from. And I wish I'd have caught that in the moment to engage in that conversation some. But even then, I probably would have got lost in the weeds and wouldn't have made it to Jesus. So, oh well. Well, from the entertainment one, back like in the 50s and 60s, we had like Leave It to Beaver, we had Brady Bunch entertainment, and now we got like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
The morality's changed a little bit.
Definitely.
So would you say the morality is a sliding scale?
Sliding scale as it changes, like.
Yeah, does morality change?
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, definitely, I guess, entertainment-wise, it has changed, with what we're watching.
Okay.
But, you obviously there's still shows that, like, you have to think about it like that. I mean, there's still just shows.
So morality is not a sliding scale, despite entertainment itself shifting its values throughout the years.
Still, it's going to be, I don't think people are going to change the way what determines a good or bad person. I mean, I guess everyone does have different stands on it.
Okay.
Because, like I was saying, more of vanity purposes on what you view yourself, or view what I guess where you stand.
Okay. So it sounds like you're shifting more to her viewpoint of you determine what's moral and what's not.
Yeah, because everyone does have their own perception or idea of what a good or a bad person is.
Okay. And in the self-determination of morality, is that it's going to be different for everybody,
of course,
right?
Of course.
So then how do we as a society function if everybody determines their own morality? I want to take just a second and reflect on her face at that question, because it's great. I would like to think that what's happening is a recognition that when we remove morality from the objective sense and put it on each individual to determine for themselves, then there's no way for any one person to say, no, this is right and this is wrong. And then society crumbles. Okay. So to kind of take this into an illustration, I guess, people who we put in jail for heinous crimes, rape, kidnapping, murder, things like that. Some of those people truly believe that what they're doing is perfectly fine.
Of course. No. Yeah. I do know that. On a psychiatric point. I can understand where you're going with that, certainly with their beliefs, but at the same time, we've come to, I guess that's what I was saying, killing, or I guess
killing, stealing, vanity.
You were saying using someone or taking advantage of someone. Those are still things that we believe are bad, and I feel a lot of people, even if with rape or killing, believe that that's bad. So it's more of I guess that big one is kind of like an overall, like.
I feel like that's something that we all have collectively come together to feel like that's bad, you don't do that.
So the morality is a consensus and not just on the individual.
Yeah. Some things I feel like are like a consensus, and then others, like smaller things, might be just like individual. Like you personally think that's bad, like something
points.
Small, but
something
then
small like that.
It's more important, like bigger, like obviously like rape or like being a pedophile. We all can agree that like something like we look at that and we're like, no, you just kind of just don't do that. Okay. So again, prosecuting rather those individuals who define their morality as including rape, murder, and things like that. How do we prosecute them if they say, well, no, what I'm doing is perfectly fine by me. I define my own morality.
Consensus.
So the consensus. So I'm going to shift the conversation here towards objective morality. And the thing is, we can't define a good or a bad person if we can't agree on the terms. So as long as morality is subjective and is this weird, fluid thing, we'll never land on, well, can I be considered a good person? Can I be a bad person? If it's all in the eyes of the beholder, then neither. So we've shifted then from morality defined by entertainment to defined by ourselves to defined by the consensus. At what point do we land on one and say, no, this is the objective measure of morality?
Just kind of just mushes all together at some point.
Yeah, that's why it was just depending on the topic. It's hard to really
define like this one line between it. It just kind of just goes between.
Yeah,
There are just some things that are just up there, and then some things that are just down there, and sometimes things that are just in between. It's hard to really pinpoint it.
So you'd say that there's no objective morality?
have to say, I mean, you got
like, from my point of view, like my morality, I say that's somewhere I wouldn't even touch. Like I wouldn't even think about that. Like if someone were to come up to me like, yeah, I just like I ripped it, I'd be like, you do not do that. Like for me, but.
Something you're going to hear and notice a lot in this video is language like for me or me, myself. It's interesting because that's the terminology of relativism. And that's what most of this conversation has been about, is moral relativism. Well, this conversation didn't lend itself well towards evangelism because, like I said, I did a terrible job. It does provide a commentary on our modern young people, the next generation moving into adulthood and taking the reins from the millennials. They tend to view things through a more relative lens.
What if it's something like on a spiritual level to where there's like countries that kill people for their religion?
Those people, like I feel like those people didn't even really like have an idea of like religion. They just like live, like they don't know that that exists.
Right.
I don't know how to describe it, like because we were born into a society where like we're taught religion, but like they were born into like nothing. They don't know anything besides like hunting and killing.
Right.
So when they see people that are dressed like us and they're just dressed in like, you know, like animal clothing, they're just like, what the heck is going on? They don't really know how to think.
What worked out great for me is that they're the ones who brought up religion. They're the ones who brought up spirituality. And I'm going to take advantage of that. They kind of opened up a lane. I'm like, yes, let's go. So you mentioned as religion. Do you think that religion offers an objective morality for people?
I guess, yeah. Because, I mean, with religion, people kind of tend to, like, force a certain, like, way of, like, dressing, behaving, things you believe, and, like, things that are morally correct.
Okay.
And then, you know.
Certain people.
Like
It all depends. There's certain religions, yeah. And how they take that religion, you know. Because there are Christians that don't act Christians.
That's certainly true.
Yeah,
Absolutely right. There are Christians who don't live up to the name. None of us do, if we're being technical. But like, there are some out there that don't seem to try, and they tarnish the name and they set us up for failure. When we try to have a witness, their witness is louder.
Yeah, like some Christians that believe you have to follow the Bible exactly, and that it's like a way of living. You have to completely follow the Bible. Like you can't get married before sex. You can't do any of that stuff. Like you're not.
You can't have sex before getting married.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. You can't do drugs. You can't like dress a certain way. I mean, that's how it was when I was younger. I went to a Christian school. I was only allowed to wear certain things. I couldn't go out places. Like I wasn't allowed to dye my hair or have makeup on. I literally had to memorize Bible verses for homework. And then I left, and I was like, oh, I don't actually have to be like that.
What did they use to define their morality in that Christian school you were in?
Like, it was really like also it was like they kind of taught you to be like really loving and care for each other, like love your neighbor.
Okay.
Like see if you saw someone in like need, you would help them and stuff. But then at the same time, like they didn't really encourage like gay marriage or anything.
So at this point, I'm fishing. I really want her to say the Ten Commandments or the Bible or even like just Jesus himself, because Jesus is always the answer. And I feel like this Christian school failed her because she didn't come out knowing that Jesus is the answer. So if we use the Christian standard, their model, how do they determine morality? What would be their checklist?
Christian. That's on you. I mean, I don't know.
Honestly, it's been so long. I honestly like kind of forgot it just because I felt so like it felt strict to me.
Well, if we go kind of back to the original question about morality and are you good people? Mm-hmm. How do we determine that? If we use so far the only objective measure we found has been religion.
Right.
Everything else has been kind of in flux and it changes. So if we were to use even the Christian method of determining if you're a good person or not, they would probably use the Ten Commandments. Yeah. They may go down that. So that would ask questions like the ones you guys brought up. Have you ever lied? Have you ever stolen anything? Like even if like the change off your parents' dresser or siblings, whatever. Have you ever killed anybody? I would assume the answer to that one's no. But then the Bible goes on and explains that, well, Jesus says that if you like hate anybody in your heart, if you got a hate list, mm-hmm. then you've committed murder.
Yeah.
If you ever looked at anybody with lust, then that's adultery, right. And according to the Christian objective standard. So according to that, how do you guys feel like you measure up as good people or not? How do you two feel like you measured up on the good person test?
I mean,
Probably
certainly
really low.
in a mind of a Christian, something like, no, like wouldn't be a good person. Would that be similar if you asked someone that killed somebody, if their actions were right? I mean, I guess back to the whole self-determination, of
Gotcha.
you yourself, how you feel.
So then what would you say is the point of morality? Like, for all of this, at the end of all this stuff, what is the point of being moral?
I mean, being happy, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, if you're
but
gonna...
happiness can literally come from anything. Like killers get happiness from killing people.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Right, yeah, but I mean, that's like so similar to them. Like if you were to ask, okay, are you a good person? They'd say,
it really comes
sure.
from it comes from yourself, but at the same time, it also comes from society.
Similar,
Because a
yeah.
killer can get happiness from killing someone, so like you can't say that's morally correct because they find it.
Yeah,
fine.
like how you stated, with the Christian, bringing up the Ten Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, going through that checklist, me, myself, if I
there's
believed
really
in
no right answer
Christianity,
for that.
yeah, and believing in Christianity, if I did, I would say, no, I'm not a good person because off those Ten Commandment lists,
And that's just individuality. You all have
Right.
your own like personal beliefs.
and if a Christian wants to believe that, I'll let them, I'm not
I
going
wouldn't
to
really
say
say
I don't
any
believe
one
that.
person is completely correct in their morality.
It's just,
Well, you'd be agreeing with the Christian by saying that,
Yeah.
and they would say that nobody's good, that nobody is perfect, nobody can meet those 10
I wouldn't
rules.
say that nobody's perfect, but I'm just like you can't reach a complete like level of perfection. Like I might say someone's good, but like there's also bad in it. Like they're good and bad. Like they can be good, they can be bad. It just depends on like what you consider good. Like I wouldn't consider killing or like rape good, but like someone, I don't know.
Dude,
Like, if I
in
see
that
someone lie, I
moment,
would be like,
yeah.
you're not good, but you're not bad because you can be a good friend. But,
So when we go back to the purpose question, what's the purpose of morality? When all things are said and done, why are we bothering being moral?
we're like we're in Vegas.
It's a great place for this question, I know. When your life is over, what was the reason you were moral? What was the reason you tried to be a good person?
because it was for you, yourself, I guess, to be, at least think you were a good person. I mean, nobody wants to think they're a bad person. I mean...
Is there any reward for being a good person?
The feeling you have in your heart.
Yeah, I guess that reward
Like
in
knowing
itself
I didn't
is
go
being-
around killing people or something
Right.
like that. Like I can die happy knowing I at
I
least,
mean-
like, I don't know, did what I wanted in life.
Yeah.
As long as it's not on my list of what I find to be bad, like killing or like stealing a lot of money or something like that.
I mean, like I said, yeah, just to kind of keep it all sane. I mean, if everyone was just going around being crazy, that's
Like
kind of
the
the purpose of morality to, I mean, at least
I feel like it's
help
also-
everyone think that they want to be a good person. And
To kind of keep up the facade of everybody wants to be a good person?
Yeah, I think so, because
People will say
if
they're a good
everyone,
person,
yeah,
but-
if everyone did what they wanted, I feel like it would just be complete chaos.
So you're keeping the sanity, you're keeping the peace by trying to be moral, be right.
Right.
So this was one of those areas where I missed a big opportunity. We talked about morality, we talked about nobody is good, and I first of all botched it when I said nobody's perfect, and that just kind of opens up the argument for them to agree, well, right, nobody's perfect, but I never came around to saying, except there was this one guy. There was, God in the flesh, Jesus. He was perfect. He was the only one who was good, morally perfect, upheld the law, and died for it. There's an opportunity there, and I just, in the moment, trying to keep track of the conversation, where I wanted it to go, keep track of what's going on around me, it got lost. Yeah, got lost. All right, what about after death? What happens then?
That's a big
That's
question.
a big question.
I don't know. I've thought of I've always thought about the rebirth.
About the what?
Rebirth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Being
That's
part
what
of
I've
that.
always thought of.
Like what, as another human or as a different type of species?
Come back as a cricket?
Yeah,
Bird,
or a
just
tree.
weird animal?
You never know.
A tree would be boring, to be honest. For me.
Well, you never know. That's the thing, though. It's like I don't know. I mean, does anybody?
Don't step on his dream tree.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a bird.
I mean, are you trying to ask if there's heaven, hell?
Yeah, is there
purgatory?
some kind of afterlife where your morality comes into question, where they say, hey, what did you do with your life? I just spend it. And they score you on your morality.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking if I believe in that, I certainly don't think I'm gonna be questioned if I was good or bad. I mean, if I were to say,
I feel like at this point I just kind of accept it. Like,
yeah.
if anything happens, I just be like, you know what? I've gone this far. Whatever
I mean, if
happens,
someone were to judge me, that'd be on someone else. If I were to judge myself, I mean, that's really about it. I mean, if someone were to ask me if I was good or bad, I would say I was a good person. But I mean, I certainly don't think I'm going to be judged no matter what. You know, I don't think so. I mean, is it of I'm going to be going to heaven or hell? I don't know. I don't think I really even believe in that or think of that. I've always thought of either the whole being reborn or just kind of complete nothingness.
Gotcha.
That's what scares me, is that there's like nothing. So
You don't know.
cease to exist.
But the point is that you gotta, like, the whole morality is that if you don't know, you just kind of live your life as if you were, that's it. You know, you want to be your best you.
Your best you. Where have I heard that? I think I've heard that in Christian circles. That's sad, because it's not Christian thought. That's New Age thought. That's secular thought. But we've allowed that to be mirrored in the church. You've kind of alluded to a morality that exists outside of ourselves. We all kind of agree to, at least on certain points. Like, having your car stolen, it would suck, and you'd say that's morally pretty wrong, right?
Like, it's like kind of putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Like, how would you like it if someone did that to you? You'd be like, oh, I don't care. It's like, well, would you really not care? Like, I don't know.
So I'll bring it back to that Christian worldview that you guys mentioned, or that you specifically mentioned, that maybe that feeling of there's an objective morality outside of ourselves is actually just an indicator that we know that there is a God who has an objective morality, has a standard, and he's created that for us, but we don't know it, or we don't hold to it, and we don't want to, because then we would be forced into somebody else's rules and doing things their way instead of doing things our way and deciding for ourselves. So I would love to leave you guys with like a piece of paper, let you know a little bit more about Jesus. I really appreciate your time and let me bug you with questions. I had a moment there where I could have talked about the golden rule and taken us back to Jesus through that route, and I didn't. It's hard in the moment. Without practice, without having done this before and knowing what to expect, I was caught off guard for a lot of this. I watched a lot of videos on how to do this going into it, so I was like a YouTube expert on this, and it is not enough without actually experiencing it. So for any of us to think that we get put in those kind of conversations at work and family, or just at a gas station, who knows, to think that we're gonna do that well and handle it right in the moment without practice, like real life hands-on experience, we're fooling ourselves. I fooled myself. And these are the results. One of the things I didn't do was I never got around to talking about the wages of sin, of our immorality, for us being bad people, because we are all bad people by the objective standard of God. And those wages of sin being death. Why death exists in the world? It's the wages of sin. And we have earned those wages. Because then I could have talked about Jesus being the propitiation for our sin, being the one who took the wrath of God for us. That was designed for us. He took it on himself for our forgiveness. He rose again for the vindication of who he is, and to gift us eternal life in heaven, free from that eternal death and separation from God, which is the rightful judgment we deserve. And with this interview style, I didn't feel like I had created a space for me to come in and strongly say, no, there is a God, there is a heaven, there is a hell, and he will judge you. I didn't feel like I had a space for that. I might have, or I might just need to guide whatever next conversation I have toward that better. It's one of the things I'm trying to take away from this. I hope that you get a lot out of this. I hope that it encourages you to get out there and have these conversations and talk to people about Jesus, because it matters. Like I said, I don't see very many people on the strip doing this kind of thing. And 42 million people coming into Las Vegas every year is a lot of people to just let walk by. I hope this encourages you. I hope this equips you and gets you out there practicing and trying and reaching people, because that is the mandate on us. I really appreciate these two having this conversation. Pray for them. Pray that the little gospel track I gave them after I totally ran over the name of Jesus because I was super intimidated and I let that get to me. Pray that track was enough, that conversation sparked thoughts about their own morality and got them to actually read the gospel tract, because I did a terrible job actually presenting it. Another reason to have tracts in your back pocket. This is not the last time I'm doing this. I've got plans to make this happen more in the future and involve other people. Hopefully it builds up the church. Hopefully it reaches some lost people and God can change hearts. So pray for me. Pray for this type of evangelistic outreach. Do it yourself. Go be a light. Godspeed.